article by the Korea Herald, and it talks about how satisfied are foreigners in South Korea. So, how content are expats in Korea? Survey shows 8 in 10 are satisfied. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to go over some of it. I will leave the link in the description so you could check it out for yourself. So 8 in 10 expats live in South Korea reported they are content with their life despite going through challenges such as discrimination and cultural integration, according to a 2022 survey conducted by Statistics Korea. The biannual survey sampled 25,000 expats aged 15 and above who have lived in Korea for over 3 months, comprising of 20,000 foreign nationals and 5,000 naturalized Koreans. There was a total of 1.75 million expats in Korea as of last year, or late last year. In the survey, 40.8% of foreigners said they were very satisfied with living in Korea, while 39.6% said they were somewhat satisfied. The overall satisfaction rate of 80.4% was slightly down from the 81% recorded in the previous survey in 2020. Naturalized Korean citizens also showed a similarly high level of satisfaction, with an overall satisfaction of 81.6%, almost unchanged from 81.5% in 2020. Nearly 90% of foreigners expressed satisfaction with their relationships with family members. The overall satisfaction rate extended to living conditions, 79.2%, and interpersonal connections, including relationships with immediate acquaintances, neighbors, and friends, 76.5%. While personal connections thrived, economic satisfaction saw a decline during the same period. There was a drop in satisfaction rating when it comes to individual incomes from 58.1% in 2020 to 53.3% in 2022. And yeah, that's going to happen because the money is drying out. All that free money that governments all around the world gave out, those low interest rate loans that the governments all around the world gave out, well, it's all drying up, so there's less money around. So yeah, people are going to make less money, and you're going to have more people that are dissatisfied. Barriers and integration also remain, with 43.4% of foreigners citing language problems as a primary challenge. Emotional challenges were also evident, with 28.8% experiencing feelings of loneliness and 27.8% citing difficulties in adapting to local habits and food preferences. Sure, food can do that. Other challenges included family conflict, 2.4%, and childcare and education, 7.9%. I also want to go into discrimination. Discrimination against foreign residents stood out as a key concern for nearly a fifth of respondents, at 19.7%. Most attributed to problems of their country of origin, 58% of those people who complained, of the 19.7%. Others cited limitations in Korean language proficiency, 27.9%, sure. And physical appearance, 8.3%, as triggers for bias treatment. Okay, yeah, sure. Instances of bias were more frequently reported in commercial establishments with stores, restaurants, and workplaces, and less in educational institutions and public services. So basically, the private sector, people will, foreigners will experience more discrimination, but in the public sector, I guess less or a lot less, I don't know. And so, I'm a Korean American. I've been living in Korea for like 11 years because I got married here and I have children here. I work my butt off, bought a house here. I'm settled here. And, but I'm a Korean American. Like, my parents are Korean. I look Korean. But I struggle because of a language barrier. And so, however, like my experience here and talking to other foreigners, rather they're, regardless of the color of skin or their ethnic background, what country they're from, all of that, I think in general people are satisfied. And so really, in a way, I'm not surprised that 8 out of 10 people are foreigners are satisfied living in Korea. Korea is a very safe place to live. It's a very safe place to live. I lived in the States. I grew up in the States for 23 years. And when I think about in terms of how safe Korea is to the States, is extremely safer. Like, it's much safer. So, um, and also because the technology is so advanced, the country is so developed that even like people who are not so wealthy, like they're in the lower income um, bracket, in terms, yeah, I think people in lower income brackets still live a better, uh, how can I say, their living standards are still much better than even wealthy people in less developed countries. And the reason why I say that is because the technology is so advanced. Like, you get Wi-Fi pretty much at all the stores, any public place. You can connect to Wi-Fi, and it's one of the fastest Wi-Fi in the world. Um, Public transportation is, if you're living in Seoul or around Seoul, the metropolitan area of Seoul, or even like Busan or any other places, I mean, you are in, it's really well developed, well constructed, well organized. So public transportation is really good. Internet, Wi-Fi is really good. The medical care in South Korea is really good. So if you work for like a Korean academy or company and you're logged into the Korean healthcare, national healthcare benefits, and you can do that as a foreigner, I mean, you compare to Korea's healthcare system to a lot of these other countries or developed countries, it's much better, faster, cheaper. I mean, it's just good. And, the service is great. Um, and, safety. Yeah. So, in terms of living standards, I know a lot of people take this for granted, but having running water, electricity, some countries don't have that. We take that for granted. The food, because of inflation on the whole world, everything's gone up, but still, you can still, buy food. Even with inflation, in comparison to other countries, I think it's still cheap. The quality of food is good. And so, and as long as you live in a developed area in South Korea, everything you need is like a 15-minute walk. Rather, you need to go to a clinic, to a big hospital, to do grocery shopping, to go shopping for clothes. If of course, a lot of people do it online nowadays. But if you're a foreigner in Korea, it'll be easier maybe for you to just go to the stores and try to order something online. Movie theater, whatever, anything. Go to the gym, dentist, whatever you need is like literally is like a 15-minute walk away, literally. So in terms of living conditions, I think this is why foreigners gave such a high rating of 80% of foreigners are satisfied, is because the living conditions in Korea is good. And so if you're wealthy, then obviously it's better. But even if you were a lower income bracket, or you're just making, regular salary, because the living conditions are so high, it's still good. Like, the living standard is good, is nice. And, the healthcare is good, it's safe. The only thing about Korea that I would say is bad is the air quality. Sometimes we get a lot of smog. It could be domestically created, the air pollution, or it could come from China, because China is a manufacturing hub of the world, right? And so they have lots of factories all over China, and the smog produced by those factories, go over the seeds, depending on how the world is revolving, rotating, and how the wind is blowing, sometimes a lot of it comes to Korea. And so I I think the air quality is not good because of, that's I guess it is a price to pay of being industrialized or being next to a manufacturing giant. Um, but other than that, yeah, my experience of living in Korea is great. I am not surprised that people are this satisfied. And yeah, there are some discrimination in South Korea because, you know, the indigenous people of this land are still the majority of this land, right? South Koreans are the same people who lived here thousands of years ago, you know? And so sometimes, they can, if you're like, if over 90 something percent of the population, let's say, I'm not specifically sure myself, but let's say over 94% of the populations are just one ethnic group of people, uh, you can expect ignorance. And so, yeah, maybe I'm not surprised also that 20% of foreigners have experienced discrimination. But also Korea is a developed country. There are a lot of foreigners here now. So, you have more people who are unignorant, right? They are open to working with and building relationships with foreigners. So, I think it's a great article, and I hope in a way this will entice people to come to Korea and check out the country. All right, everyone. God bless.